I'm live. Well, welcome to Langley Youth Unlimited's Creative Life art tutorial for today. So today I'm going to show you how you can make a picture that looks like a little bit like the Aurora Borealis using these, which are called soft pastels. You can also use chalk pastels, or you could use oil pastels. They will each respond in a slightly different way. I'm using soft pastels today. This is what they look like. They make a big mess. So just make sure that you are prepared for getting dirty hands if you're using these. But they can have some cool effects. This project is actually really easy. So even if you are at a very basic skill level, you'll be able to do this for sure. So what you're going to need is, like I said, if you have some chalk pastels or oil pastels, you're going to want a pencil. And I'm going to be using a 6B pencil, but it doesn't really matter what you use. That one just has a darker lead. And then if you have a white marker, now this is actually a gel pen, which works pretty well. White gel pen. You can also use a correction pen, which is like whiteout, or you could use paint, any kind of like just white acrylic paint. So any of those things will do. So without further ado, let me show you how we can get this art piece. Now, it would be best to use watercolor paper or something like Bristol board or something that it's a little bit tougher, because I'm going to put tape down on the paper to get that triangle shape. And when I'm just doing it in the sketch pad like this, then it has a tendency to try to rip the paper slightly. So, but I'll just do it in here for today. So, because I noticed probably most people don't have Bristol board or watercolor paper at home. So just so you can see that we're on even keel. So here's the thing is, like, just put your tape down in the shape that you want. And I mean, you can measure this all out if you want it to be perfect, but I'm just eyeballing it myself just to create a triangle. So there we are. We have our triangle. All right. So now, if you'll remember from our reference sheet, the one that I did earlier, we have quite the mix of colors coming through here. And to do something, it's never going to turn out exactly the same as it did before, because we're working with a material that is really finicky. So I'm just going to use just a few colors. I'm going to use this light, kind of lime green color, and I'm going to use blue, it's light blue here, and I'm going to use, and you can see just setting it on the page is enough to have it leave. So if you want nice clean edges, just keep this stuff away from your working surface. And then I'm going to use black, and that's it. Okay, so all you need are those three colors. And so I'm just going to take this and just lightly kind of sketch in this green, because in trying to create the northern lights or the Aurora Borealis effect, I looked at quite a few pictures online, and this is often the most dominant color that's there in that night sky. All right, and then it kind of is blended together with the blue. Now, from where I live in Langley, BC, just outside of Vancouver. You actually can see the northern lights occasionally, but there's a lot of light pollution from the suburbs in which we live here. So I'd love to go to a space a little further north where we'd be able to see them a little better. I'm just going to add a little black into the midst of this here. Black will easily take over everything, as you will see here in a moment. So that is basically all you need to do to get the effect. All right, so now I'm going to take just a regular Kleenex. I'm going to bunch it up like so. And now I'm just going to rub on the paper. You can even use regular chalk for this project too if you have different colored chalks. This stuff responds very similar. You can see the dust that's coming off of it. Okay. And we're just going to kind of rub through. Now I like having that black and blue kind of mixed together. And even that black coming down through the whole of the image there. Now, you could just leave it just exactly like that and it's all good, but I want to put in a little bit more depth. So I'm going to just put in a little bit more green here, because a lot of it comes off the edges, as you can see. And that's the difference in working with the chalk pastels as opposed to oil pastels. Now, I have some oil pastels here too, and maybe I'll give this project another try here if you want to stick around and see the difference between the two different mediums. Okay, more blue. And a little blue up on top there. All right, so you can just add another layer in here. And I like the look of that as it darkens it up just a bit more. Now, you can see I have made quite the chalk dust mess here. Make sure you get all the way to the edges of your tape, okay, because that's going to leave nice crisp lines. I'm going to pick up the whole thing and I'm just going to give it a tap off camera just to blow that dust off. All right, now I'm going to get my pencil here, and just any kind of piece of paper will do, or if you have a ruler, to create those trees. So you want it to be at a 90-degree angle, and then just draw a series of lines straight up and down along the length of this triangle here. Okay. And varying sizes, as if these are different size trees. It's just kind of what I'm going for. All right, so that's all you need to do. And then now some people might get real fancy and make their own special looking trees, but all you really need to do is do a scribbly line starting off real small on the top, and then as you work your way down that line, just gets wider and wider. And this is why I like to use the darker toned pencil, which is a 6B. Okay, but you can use a 2B, you just have to push harder to get the same kind of dark texture. And you can fill that all the way in, like I just did there, or you can leave some of your scribble marks so it has this little see-through blending to it, and that actually maybe is how you might see real trees out in the wilderness if you were trying to capture this in real life. You can see I even skipped a little bit there. I'm not worried about it being perfect. Trees are not perfect, the organic nature of trees. They don't grow perfectly symmetrical. Now, how many trees you want to do is completely and totally up to you. I want to be able to get the perspective that I'm in a forest, but not have it so closed in that I can't see the individual trees, because I think it just helps bring texture to and depth to this. So you can see these two are fairly close together, so they're going to bleed together quite a lot, which is totally fine, as you can see. But if I did that all the way along, I would probably lose the distinction of trees in this. All right. And if they're too small and if I start off too wide, they look kind of more like bushes than they do like trees. So that's just something to consider. Use a fairly sharp pencil on this with your trees. Okay. Now, I use this white gel pen, and I would recommend that you take that piece of paper and you just put your hand over top, because it will lift up onto your hands, the chalk dust and the pencil both, and you don't want that to smear. So then we're just going to just randomly put stars into this nightscape that we've got going on here. This is, like I said, you can do this with acrylic paint and a brush, and then you just tap the brush with some paint on it and it would leave paint splatters, which is kind of cool because it leaves it much more randomized and in some sense looks more like stars than when I'm just drawing them out here. All right. Or you can use, like I said, like a whiteout pen, a correction pen, something like that. Whatever you've got for supplies around your place. So you can see I've got some stars in there now. Now I just need to take this tape off. And like I said before, if I was going to do this as a finished piece that I wanted to hang up or something, I would not do it in my sketchbook, but I would do it on watercolor paper or Bristol board or something that has a little bit of a stronger finish to it, because the tape will rip the paper occasionally because it's cheap sketchbook paper. All right, did these edges first, so take those off first. You see, because I went right up to the edges of the tape, I get a nice crisp line. So, yeah, there it's ripping my paper a bit here, which I wouldn't be very happy with if it was an art piece that I wanted to frame. But this is a good way to practice. Eh? Now this is personal preference, but I kind of felt like this picture had a little bit more depth if I added a few trees on the outside of the triangle as well. Let's give it some more interesting geometrical shapes. Like so. Now, I don't have it here, but what you will notice is this drawing will stay dusty, and it will get smudgy in your sketchbook. Or if you take it out and you want to hang it up or something, and then it could be up against glass and it would leave smudges as well. And so you can combat that if you have, it's called drawing fixative. You can get it at any art supply store, and you just give it a spray. You could use clear spray paint as well, or Another thing you can use is hairspray. Just spray over the whole image. The hairspray dries clear, and it keeps the stuff from smudging and smearing as you have in your book. So that is it, and don't forget to sign your work. All right, so that's how that project goes. Super easy and simple, and it's something that looks really cool, and people will wonder how you did it. But honestly, it's super easy. So now I want to try. Now, I haven't done this with oil pastels before. I've used oil pastels plenty of times before, but never on this particular type of project. So let's see. We'll just play around with a shape. I think it's kind of cool to use our mediums in different ways. And that's why I add the element of tape. It just, you could do the same thing in a flat, just full piece of paper, but sometimes just having the edges there and creating a different view just helps the aesthetics a little bit, just keeps it a little bit more interesting. I don't really know what I'm doing here. Maybe like that. I don't know. Now, I got some of these ideas for this from an artist on Facebook. You can look them up. Deepak Art. And I'm just inspired by them. That's one of the things that I like to do, is as I find artists that are intriguing to me, that I try to emulate what they do, because that's just how you learn. Before you can start to create really unique, one-of-a-kind items, you start by just trying to reproduce what other people do. That's like the fundamentals of learning any skill. It's how we learned how to speak and read and write. And plus, they say imitation is the best form of flattery. Where you can get in trouble with this stuff is if you try to sell work that they have made a name for, creative license for themselves, and then you try to recreate it, and that's kind of stealing, unless you have their permission. Cool. So I said I'm going to use oil pastels, and I was going through my stuff today, and I didn't even know I had oil pastels. I thought I had used them all up, but I happen to have a brand new set. So I have a lot more color selections with this than I did with the chalk pastels. This will give me a chance to add maybe a few more colors into the mix as well. So let me see. We'll still use that light green. Where'd you guys go? There. Now I had to push quite a bit harder with this to get it to stay on the paper. You notice that if you've used the two different mediums together. But it goes on a little bit more smooth than crayon. Crayon is just made of paraffin wax, so it's pretty limited on what you can do with that. This teal color is fun. I like it. Okay. Now in a lot of the pictures I see of the Aurora Borealis, I see a lot of pink. So I'll add pink into that mix as well. Maybe some deep violet. All right. And black. Where's black? Coal black. Whoop. Lifting up my tape, I'm not going to have a nice sharp line there anymore. Well, this is how we learn. One of the most intimidating things about art is an empty page. You don't know what to do and you're afraid of making mistakes, and so you don't ever do it. And I realize that I've struggled with that drawing paralysis many times. I feel like this is going to need more teal. Now, one of the great things about oil pastels is that they do blend together quite well. And unlike the chalk pastels, if you saw the chalk pastels, we lost a lot of the vibrancy. And oil pastels tend to keep that vibrancy as they blend. So that's one thing that makes them maybe a little superior to the other method that we were using. The chair is squeaking as I'm doing this. You have to push quite a bit harder than I did with the chalk pastels. These oils, woo! Look, I still had chalk left on that tissue. Now it's a mixed media piece. Right, let's add some more purple on here, cover up that spot we added, putting it on quite a bit more thick. Now, as I see, it's lifting quite a lot. This is, and you get to see the real process, because lots of times I practice these things prior to coming on live, and it looks like, you know, I know exactly everything that I'm doing, and you know, you're like, oh, I wish I could draw like that, and really, the main key to art, you see, I mean, there's some people who are just very naturally gifted, and they can just sit down and draw whatever they want. But for the majority of people in the world, the truth is that it is mostly hard work and practice and repetition, just doing things over and over and over and over and over. And there is talent that is involved in there, but a lot of what it is just skill. It's just from doing the same thing over and over. Yeah. It's blending together nicely. Over on the edge, I find it's a little dry. So we'll add more right along the edge. So is anybody trying this with me along live? Comment if you are. not, it's okay. Just gives me a chance to do some art. I've had people contacting me from all over the place about these tutorials, wanting to do them with youth or with their kids. A lot of times people forget, or it's a weird time for them, depending on what time zone they're in and all that, and they miss it. So I know some people are kind of following along as I go, and other people are doing it on their own time, which is totally cool. I get that. Well, I'll tell you, oil pastels, this job is much harder. Let's get that black going now. That rubbed right in there. I'm going to drag it into my other areas too, this black. It darkens things up a little bit. Helps give it that luminous feeling that the Aurora Borealis has. And a little bit more black up in this corner. Maybe over here too. I think I'd like to bring it down a little bit. Like so. All right. Just add some more pink in. I'm gonna add a little bit of blue. I think that would be good. A little bit of a transition. We used blue in the last one. And I like what we ended up with that. Alrighty. All right, there we go. So, does that look like the Aurora Borealis? No, Danny, it doesn't. All right, what are we gonna do here? I want to add in a little bit detail here. Let's see. just to give it some depth. I think we'll, if I look at these Aurora Borealis pictures, I think we often see, just to give it context of how big it is, we see it with kind of like cliffs or mountain ranges. So I'm just doing my pencil right over top of this, and I'll just fill it in with a pencil. This is where a good dark pencil pays off, as you can cover a larger area quickly. You can do it with a regular HB or 2B pencil as well, but you tend to have to push a lot harder than you do with something like this, like a 6. So they made the announcements today that schools are going to reopen here for kindergarten up to the 5th grade, for those that want to volunteer to go back. And so it's going to be a combination of online and in class. Just sounds like a lot of work on teachers. And then for high school, they're only supposed to be going to school once a week, which sounds like there's still going to be quite a long process of hanging out at home and trying to find things to do. So I would love to keep doing these art tutorials. Feel free to contact me if there's different mediums that you would like to try, different projects you've always wondered how they're done. I love experimenting with all different kinds of art. I love painting and drawing, and I like even some more craft kind of things, like paper quilling, mixed media stuff, markers. I'm not super great at sculpture, I'll admit that. What do you think? Starting to come together? Real good dark. This pencil covers pretty good over these pastels. I said this is a 6B. The bigger the number on a pencil, the softer it is. And the softer it is, the darker it gets quickly. So they have pencil kits in which you can have all the different kind of shades of pencils. They have huge ones. This is what I use. So this one is a set that goes from HB to 8B. It gives you all different kinds of darknesses, but there's lots and lots and lots. But a simple set like that can bring your drawing to the next level, especially if you're into realism, or you like doing silhouette type art like this. As I said, it gets you real dark real quick. And really a secret to a lot of these art pieces is the dark stuff. Lots of times we think that a lot of it has to do with the details, but the details pop out a lot more when there's dark areas to compare them with. Let's do a few trees. Here, just like we did before. Another page. You can get a little bit more creative with your trees too. Who's ever been in a place like that before? Anyone? I had some friends that lived up in the Yukon, and they would send pictures that definitely looked a lot like this scene. What a beautiful place that is in the world. Let's put some trees on this side too. One of the things I like about art, especially in this time of being at home more, is all the places that you wish you could go. You can kind of visit in doing art like this because you can bring it home with you. All right. So what tree style do you like better? This one or these more detailed trees? Use a little bit of white and just add a little bit of texture onto a little mountain range here. What do we think? Of that. Great. You can see the pencil left quite a bit of graphite onto the pastel. But got enough there to give me some texture. Right. Let's take my white gel pen and add the stars in. Okay. Well, it's looking pretty decent there. I wonder what it would be like if we added a little more details here. Let's see. Wispies. Different colors. Like that. All right. Let's see, where would I be? I think I would be here. Feels like there's a lot of freedom looking at the expanse, the sky there, the aurora borealis, a cosmic event that happens right at home is that it's particles from the sun, hey John, get caught up in our magnetic pole. Fill that in. All right, there you go. Let's take off our tape and see what our final product looks like. You can see where my tape slipped there at the beginning. But no biggie, it's just a learning process. I said this project, normally if you're going to try to do a finalized complete project, you do it on watercolor paper or something that's a little stronger, stiffer. This tape tends to not stick super well in some areas, and then other areas it rips. So inconsistent on sketchbook paper. Check this off in the right order, or I'm gonna have tape sticking to it itself and being annoying. You can also see I eyeballed this shape. That'd be another thing where you could spend more time just trying to get everything perfectly lined up, but this really is just about practice. Go this little bit here. Maybe I will cover up my mistake by adding pencil to this edge. Here too, where tape kind of ripped into the paper. So, down along this edge too. And I'm putting this other piece of paper down because this will smudge for sure onto my hands. And there we go. Well, other than this side looks a little bit longer. We can just add this in like so. Just let it go right over the edge, like I did on the last one. Just fill that space in. I like it. What do you think? You're allowed to not like it if you don't. It won't hurt my feelings. Or if it might hurt my feelings, but you'll never know because I'm at my house and you're at yours. Who knows, could cry myself to sleep every night. Nah, not worth it. Not worth it. Yeah, if I want to complete this out. So this is what I would do kind of for a sketch or a concept. And that's what I use my sketchbook for. And then I'm like, hey, maybe I really like it, or I don't like the shapes, or I want to try a different color scheme up here. And so, you know, that's how I practice it before I would move to something where it would be a finalized or complete picture. But this is all about practice. And using these pastels, especially the chalk pastels, which we did the first bit there, can give you good success really quickly. I like this kind of like stop and take in the sights. So, well, what do you think? John will know if I have hurt feelings or not. Yeah, you probably will. So, just wear my heart on my sleeve. John's just one of the people I complain to the most, I guess. Let's add another tree here. Okay, I'll do another one of these trees. There you go. We've done 2 drawings here today of the Aurora Borealis. We started with this one, the chalk pastels. And we ended with this one, with the oil pastels. So I don't know what it is that you have at home, but give them both a try if you have them. I'd love to see what you come up with and how you've taken this project and given it a shot. That's all I have for you today, and hopefully we will see you again next week. And we'll tackle another art project. No? All right, man. Boys and girls, we will see you later.